Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, this is your brother Isa Ma. Today in this video I'm going to share with you some of my experiences during my trip to Mecca and Medina, which was a month ago. Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't have one of those selfie videos going, Assalamu alaikum guys, I'm in Mecca, how's it going? I didn't do that, and I don't think it's wise to do that, because social media makes us focus too much on trying to establish a superficial sense of existence, and at the same time fail to really experience being present in an environment. So when I was in Mecca and in Medina, I focused on absorbing everything with my eyes and my ears and my senses instead of my camera. I was trying to really experience the vibe, the atmosphere, with my being instead of an electronic device. So I don't have one of those videos. I do have some footages of Tawaf, of Adhan, which I show to my families to encourage them to go there one day as well. But I don't think that's necessary for me to show, because there's plenty of videos like that on YouTube. You can just search for them. Instead, I would want to share some of my personal experience, my observations, and my reflections, inshallah. So actually, after I came back, I wrote 2 articles about my trip, one about Mecca, one about Medina, but both these articles are in Chinese. They're posted on Chinese social media and have been read for about 20,000 times. I don't think I can write it as well in English, but inshallah I'll just narrate as well as I can. I started my article by quoting the story of Malcolm X, and which is one of my most admired role models. And his book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X, is one of my favorite books, right? I would encourage everyone who can comprehend English writing to read his book. It's a life-changing experience. Now, in his life, there are many interesting episodes, but the turning point, you can see one of the most amazing station of his life journey is Hajj, when he went to Mecca for the first time in 1964, when he experienced the unity of mankind, when he observed that racial difference can really be eliminated by the worship of one God. That entirely changed his life, his political philosophy, his attitude towards difference of race, etc. So when he went back to America after that Hajj experience, he became a new man, right? More composed, less militant, less you can say aggressive in his approach to racial relations. But anyway, when I was reading that book, especially this chapter called Hajj, it is called Hajj, I was really looking forward to one day going there myself and trying to understand what Malcolm X experienced. So that was one of my motivations. Of course, the primary motivation is the religious motivation, that Umrah is a highly rewarded good deed. It is something that we all should aspire to, but the narration of Malcolm X about his own journey also motivated me a lot to go for this journey. So before I went, I consulted an Egyptian brother of mine, Egyptian friend. I asked him, should I follow a group, because I'm not, I've never done this before. I'm not really familiar with the procedure. I don't know what to do, what to say, where to stay. Should I just follow a group? They have those Umrah agents, right? You can just follow a group. It's like a travel group, and the leader will tell you what to do and how to proceed, etc. And he was very firm in saying, no, go by yourself. You're a young man. You're capable. You speak English and some Arabic. You don't need to rely on others. And actually, he said it would be much better if you go alone. It will be a much more spiritual experience if you're by yourself. And it turned out he was very right. Hajj and Umrah are supposed to be like a rehearsal, like a preview of the Day of Judgment, where all human beings come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, right? All the worldly relationships will be temporarily cut off, right? And you are receiving your hisab, your calculations, your account alone. You'll be facing the questioning of Allah Azza wa Jal alone. You will be accountable for your life alone. So it's a preview of that. It's a rehearsal of that. All the worldly statuses are cancelled and eliminated. You are just an abd. You are just a slave of Allah Azza wa Jal, and that's it. So when you go alone, you can better immerse into that feeling, that experience of being alone, so that you can actually benefit more. So I do agree with him, and I do recommend those of you who haven't been there or who are planning to go there again, to go alone for once. If the last time you went, you followed a group, you may already know all the procedure, and after all, Umrah is not that complicated. Go alone might give you a better and more spiritual experience. And you'll be more sincere as well, right? You won't be chatting with your friends. You won't be discussing about, should we have fried chicken tonight or what. You'll be more focused that way as well. So alhamdulillah, this YouTube channel and the other social media platforms that I'm on helped me a lot. This is the bright side of technology. This is the benefits of technology. I got to know a lot of very generous people, Muslim brothers and sisters, who are willing to offer me help in many different ways. So before I arrived in Mecca, some brother saw my post that I'm going there for Umrah, and he offered to drive me before I arrived in Jeddah, because the flight arrives at Jeddah. He offered to take me from Jeddah to Mecca, and he did that, right? He took me from the airport, and he took me to Mecca with his car, and we had a very fruitful conversation in the car. We talked about politics, we talked about religion, etc. And I'm very thankful. I'm forever thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having placed so many generous people in my journey to help me in so many different ways. And I keep telling my mom that, perhaps one of the reasons that I receive so much generosity and hospitality is that you also treat your guests very generously. And this is a trait of my mother. Whenever a guest comes from other city or somewhere else, she would be very generous. She would spare a lot of time to take them to places and treat them a very nice meal, etc. So I said to my mom, this is like a cycle. Your generosity led to other people's generosity towards me. So I'm harvesting the fruit of your good deed. I kept telling her that, and she's very happy to hear this, and she's motivated to be more hospitable towards guests. And we believe this as Muslims because Allah Azza wa Jal told us in the Quran, and the Prophet ﷺ told us in his Sunnah, that whoever is merciful towards the creation, then the Creator will be merciful towards him or her. So this is very fair trade. You be nice to others, and other people will be nice to you, and Allah will be the one deciding how the matching goes. But it will be very useful. And when I went to Masjid al-Haram, before I actually entered, I already got very emotional, and I remembered a description of Malcolm X in his book. He said, Mecca, when we entered, seemed as ancient as time itself. Right? Although the walls are beautifully decorated and there is a sense of modernity surrounding Masjid al-Haram, the footbridge and everything, but you can sort of feel that this place is very old. This place has a sense of antiquity in it. And then I was also thinking to myself that this particular spot that I'm walking upon, that I'm stepping on, could be a place that one of the Sahaba walked by more than 1400 years ago. Moreover, it could be a spot that the Prophet ﷺ sat on or walked on more than 1400 years ago, and that gives you a sense of connectedness beyond time. You just feel like time doesn't limit you anymore, right? There's a very strong sense of belonging to this community of faith, to this ummah that has existed for such a long time, and so many people have come here, so many great people, excellent people, so many leaders have come here, so many scholars and muhsinun, so many excellent worshippers have come here, and you feel that connection. And when I saw the Kaaba for the first time, like I went in, it was Asr, and I prayed Asr before seeing the Kaaba, and when I saw the Kaaba, it is not a feeling of wonder and surprise, like, oh my God, this is so amazing. It's not like that. It's more, to me personally, a sense of familiarity. It's as if I already know it, and he already knows me. And to a certain extent, most scholars agree that the Kaaba was first built by Adam alayhi salam, the first human being, our father, the ancestor of all human beings. So if in that sense, the Kaaba does already know me, and I do already know it through our father Adam alayhi salam. So it was a sense of familiarity, and it's a sense of peace and normality, as if it's supposed to be here. This is the place for this black rock, and I am supposed to be here. I am supposed to be in front of this black house and staring at it. It's a sense of very peaceful composure. And then I started doing the rituals of Umrah. I started doing Tawaf, and subhanallah, I went in. It's not a special time. It is not. It's not supposed to be a very busy time, but there are so many people, right? And I heard once on the internet that they say New York never sleeps. They've not seen Mecca. It's true. Whenever you go to the Haram, even if it's 3 a.m. in the morning, there are hundreds of people surrounding it doing Tawaf. So one of the feelings I constantly got when I was in Mecca and Medina was how to say, like, I'm nobody. That's the feeling. I am nobody. Nobody cares I'm here. Nobody cares who I am. We are just, humble slaves of Allah Azza wa Jal. And you would be honored if you are recognized as a slave. That's already an honor. So it's a really humbling experience. You feel like, okay, you have 60,000 subscribers on YouTube. Who cares? You're nobody here. Everyone, you could be doing Tawaf, and the one next to you could be a millionaire. And the one again next to him could be a renowned scholar that changed the course of Islam in his country or in his community. You just never know. There are so many great people, but being here, all of the other worldly status and circumstances are eliminated. You're just worshipping. So it's a very humbling experience. And when I was doing Tawaf, again, it felt very normal, just like looking at the Kaaba. It felt like this motion of going around the Kaaba anti-clockwise is something that has been genetically designed already for us. It's something that you feel content with, right? It's not like a sport that you have to train for. It's not like an exercise that you need to have a lot of preparation for. It is just a very normal event. You feel that you're ready for it. You feel that you've been prepared for it. So I wrote in a Chinese article that it could be just like planets rotating around stars. It could just be like electrons rotating around the nucleic core. It's very natural. It's not enforced. You feel very natural walking around the Kaaba in that manner. And subhanallah, when you are in the square, the closer you are to the Kaaba, the harder it will be for you to walk, and there will be more pushing and squeezing when you go to the inner circles of the Tawaf, people doing Tawaf. And I had no experience. I tried to get close because, after all, this is the first time you're seeing the Kaaba. You want to get close. So I was trying to get close, and eventually it did become really hard for me. People were pushing quite hard from behind, and I had cramps in my feet. So later on, I was discussing with another Egyptian friend of mine, and he said, subhanAllah, every time he does Tawaf on the ground floor in that square, he tells himself that this is the last time, because now they have built the second floor and the roof floor. He says he prefers doing Tawaf on the roof floor. There are much less people, so that you can be more focused. You can be more conscious of your adhkar and your dua. You wouldn't be so bothered by the pushing and squeezing of people. And I think it's a good idea, because I also tried doing Tawaf on the roof floor a few times. It's a much bigger circle. It will take much longer time on the roof, right? In the square, maybe a few minutes you can do one round, but on the roof floor, it might take you 20 minutes or half an hour to do one round. But it does give me more space to focus on my adhkar and my dua. So it is a good practice. I also recommend it. And we know that touching and kissing the black stone is a praiseworthy thing. It's recommended. If you're able to do it, you should do it. I did try. But for those of you who did try before, you know how hard it is. SubhanAllah. I feel like you have to be either 100 kilograms or if you don't mind punching people in the face, there's a very little chance you can get to there. I tried very hard after Isha one day, and my feet were literally injured. I was stepped on so many times, eventually like my feet broke and it was bleeding. That's how hard it is. But even so, I still didn't manage to touch the black stone. Maybe next time, inshallah. And then, you know, the rituals are quite clear, and I don't have to explain to you. You can just search for those on the internet. A few of my personal reflections or observations. One of them is everyone in Mecca is a Hajji, right? For those of you who have been there, you must remember that, you know, the security guards who maintain discipline and who maintain order they call everyone Hajji. No matter you are old or young or man or woman, doesn't matter. Yeah, yalla Hajji, yalla. They call you Hajji, the one who comes for pilgrimage, because that is the shared identity of people who come here. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, if you're a CEO or a beggar. It doesn't matter if you're Chinese or Korean. Nobody cares. You're just Hajji. You just came here for pilgrimage. You are a human being. And that, you know, sort of shines light on what Malcolm X experienced. That sense of human commonness and oneness, and the commonness of purpose of people who come here. They're just here for the pilgrimage. There's no other purpose. So, you know, it reminds me of the ayah where Allah Azza wa Jalla said, "Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum." The most noble of you in the sight of Allah are those who are most conscious, who has most taqwa. And you're all Hajji here. Other identities don't matter here. And also in Mecca, you can see volunteer good deeds everywhere. You know, when you're doing Tawaf, there are people who are holding perfume. If you want it, you just reach out your hand and he will put some perfume on you. There are people who are holding tissue box. If you want a tissue, you can just take one. And even, you know, inside the Haram, there are people who are holding a basket of dates, well prepared in separate bags. You can just take one if you want to. Because people know that this is a blessed place and good deeds are multiplied. So they're trying to do as much as they can to serve others, to do khidmah. And they know that the reward is beyond measure. And another feeling is that there's no stranger in Mecca, right? Already you go there, there are tons of other people, but everyone feels they know each other. There's no stranger. You know, when you go into the elevator of your hotel and someone else comes in, they will say assalamu alaikum. You know, this is a forgotten sunnah, which is becoming very, very rare in other parts of the Muslim world. When the Prophet ﷺ was asked, Ayyul Islami khair, which quality in Islam is the best? He said, تُطْعِمُ الطَّعَامَ, to feed the poor, and وَتَقْرَأُ السَّلَامَ عَمَّنْ عَرِفْتَ وَمَنْ لَمْ تَعْرِفْ, and to say salam to those who you know and those who you don't know. We nowadays we say salam to people we know for sure, but we seem to be reluctant to say salam to people we don't know. And it's even weird, right? If you go up to a vendor who's a Muslim and you say assalamu alaikum, he might be surprised because you don't know him. So, but in Mecca, you can sense this. People say salam to each other even if they don't know each other. People step in the elevator, they say salam to everyone. And you know, there are people from all parts of the world. There are Europeans, there are Central Asians, North Americans, Africans, but nobody feels out of the place here in Mecca. No, it's not strange to see any kind of people, because this is, you know, mathabatan linnas. It is a place of return for human beings. Whoever comes here, it's normal, right? So nobody. When I go to a masjid in Pakistan, people will be staring at me, right? SubhanAllah, a Chinese brother, we've never seen one before. Endangered animal, endangered species. But in Mecca, if you're Chinese, if you're Japanese, nobody cares. You're just a Muslim, right? You're Hajji. So there's no stranger in Mecca. And also, like, the Kaaba has a really special attraction. It is not one of those tourist attractions that you see and wonder for a second, you take a picture and that's it, khalas. It has a special attraction that makes you never tired of looking at it. One night I was sitting in the Haram and there was a old man next to me, and for about half an hour he was just staring at the Kaaba. He must be like maybe 70 years old. He was just staring at it and enjoying it. There was a smile on his face of satisfaction. If you have been there, you would understand what I'm talking about. This house that has nothing in it, this very simple structure, this cube, doesn't really attract people from a logical perspective. It's not about the shape of it. It's not about the design of it, but it's the symbolism of it. It's what it represents. It's the meaning behind it. It's the history it carries, right? It's the sights that it has witnessed. So how many great people have come to this place and made dua with tears in their eyes? How many people have come to this place with a lot of sacrifices? So you can feel all of that when you stare at the Kaaba. And there is this very special kind of beauty in the Haram, in everything combined. There's the comparison of being still and being mobile, right? When people are doing Tawaf, it is emotion. But once the adhan is called, once the iqamah is called, people stop and start to pray, and then they be still for a moment. And then after the prayer, they start moving again. So that comparison has a sense of beauty in it. And also, when you think about the different dimensions, you are very near the Kaaba, but you can also sort of experience that Allah Azza wa Jal, being the highest, is very close to this place. You feel very close to Allah Azza wa Jal at this place, and you feel connected with other servants of His, and you feel a connection with history, as I said, and with distance. People come from all over the world. So all of this, they combine and give you a very complete and comprehensive sense of beauty. And Dr. Omar Farouk Abdullah, an American scholar, once said, beauty is the splendor of truth. If something is beautiful, then chances are it contains elements of truth. And here, in this place, you're experiencing truth from all different angles. And that's why you also experience beauty in a very deep way. So that's my experience in Mecca. What about Medina? And then I took one of those, private cars when they, stop at near Darul Tawheed, and they say Medina, 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 and you just go and ask how much, and you agree, and you just get on the car. About 7 people in the same SUV, and then you just go to Medina. So one thing that was interesting to me was that on the road, on the highway, you know how, it's normal to have signs on the highway that remind you, please put your seatbelts on, or don't drink and drive, or don't speed, something like this. It's normal in every country. But here on the highway between Mecca and Medina, they also have signs, but the signs are not telling you to put your seatbelt on. The signs are telling you, Uzkurillah, remember Allah, subhanallah. Or some, adhkar written like subhanallah, like la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, like astaghfirullah. So it reminds the driver to constantly say this adhkar while he's driving. And I think it's a very interesting thing. So we stopped once at about 4 p.m. and we prayed Asr, and then we moved on. We arrived at 6:30 near al-Masjid al-Nabawi. So the atmosphere in Medina is very different from that of Mecca, and I'm pretty sure you've heard about this from other people as well. I heard it from Sheikh Omar Suleiman. Mecca seems to be a very busy place. I mean, after all, it's mathabat lin-nas, right? A returning place for human beings. People come here and they're going in all directions, they're buying and selling, and they're doing tawaf all the time. So you feel everyone is occupied in Mecca. Everyone is onto something, right? Everyone is going somewhere. But in Medina, everyone is calm and it's peaceful, and like no one's in a hurry. Everyone's very relaxed. It's a sense of sakina, peace, a sense of security. You feel safe, and you don't feel worried. You don't feel compelled in this place. And subhanallah, when you go pray in the masjid, just the sheer number of people in there, like if you are even 5 minutes before the iqama, chances are you won't find a place in the masjid. You have to pray outdoors. So that really gives me this feeling that there are so many sabiqun, like forerunners, people who are going out of their way to pursue excellence in their worship in our ummah, right? You may hear from speakers from all over the world that people in our ummah have become less devoted to the deen comparing to our ancestors. We're less motivated, we're not doing as much. But still, there are a lot of people who are really sabiqun, forerunners. They are exerting a lot of effort in trying to become excellent in one of the worships or many different forms of worship. When you go there, you see people reciting the Quran half an hour before the prayer inside the masjid. You see people making dua for a long time, for 20-30 minutes. And it really makes me feel shy and ashamed for myself. All of these people, they're trying so hard. Some of them are very old. And while I have the energy and while I have the time, I'm not really trying as hard as they are. So it really motivates me to at least try to catch up with their pace and do more. And one of the most emotional experiences during this journey is, of course, paying the visit to the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So one day after Isha, I went through Babu Salam towards the grave of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. It was very crowded. You move very slowly, and you hear many different languages around you, right? There's Urdu, there's Arabic, there's English, there's Russian, there's Hazak. What is the Kazakhstani language called? I don't even know. Anyway, there are so many different languages. But then, as you pass the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of these different languages converge to one unified sentence. Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Peace be upon you, O Messenger of Allah. And it's a very emotional experience. We love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we love Allah's Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. But these two love are different. There are different kinds of love. The love towards Allah Azza wa Jal is something more abstract, you can say, because Allah Azza wa Jal is beyond creation. It's not something that we can comprehend completely. There's nothing like unto him. But the Prophet ﷺ is a human being who walked upon the earth, who spoke, and we know of his speech, who did many things that we're familiar with in his sunnah. So when you say salam to the Prophet ﷺ, it feels very concrete, it feels very relatable, it feels very real, it feels very close. This person who changed the word, literally, this person who would pray at night and cry for his ummah, this person who reserved the title of brotherhood and sisterhood to people who he has not seen but believed in him, is just right here, a few steps from you. And that is a very, very emotional experience. You feel very close to the best of creation and to the mercy to all human, to the word rahmatan lil alameen. And you look towards the left and you see and you remember all of the sufferings and sacrifices he's gone through in order for the truth to prevail. You remember all the dua that he made for you before you were even born. You remember all the beautiful and amazing traits that he has and demonstrated. You just feel the charisma of this person, and you become ever more looking forward to the meeting with him. So when you say Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah, I guarantee you your relationship with the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam will be revolutionized. It's a whole new kind of relationship after you experience this. So after I and then there's the grave of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and Umar radiallahu anhu. You also say salam to them, the Shaykhan of Islam, the two great scholars of Islam, and they also dedicated their whole life and everything they possessed for the sake of Islam and for the sake of this ummah. So you say salam to them, and I exited from Babul Baqi', and I was still very emotional. I couldn't hold myself, and I was feeling ashamed of all of my shortcomings and flaws and mistakes, and sometimes sins committed knowingly against what the Prophet ﷺ taught us or encouraged us. So I was very ashamed that I couldn't completely follow him as much as I should, and I was ashamed that I have so many imperfections, and I also feel sort of sad for the condition of the Muslim community, the ummah today. How I was thinking, if the Prophet ﷺ were here today and to witness what we are like, wouldn't he be disappointed? Wouldn't he be sad? And to compare us, our state of iman, our state of character, our state of behavior to his companions, wouldn't we be a disappointment? Wouldn't we be so much less practicing in a way than them? So I was feeling all of this. It's a mixed emotion. So I started crying, and I cried a lot, and I was thinking to myself that I have not lived up to your expectation, Ya Rasulullah. I have not lived up to the legacy that you've left. And I was crying, and I cried for quite some time. I got tired. I sat down, and I was still crying. And then a brother who's of similar age saw me crying, and he just sat next to me, and he asked me in Arabic, "Mi aina ant? Where are you from?" And I said, "Sin, I'm from China." And he said, "Ana Turki." He said he's Turkish, and then he hugged me. And that's it. He hugged me and he left. And but it was very, he made me feel much better that someone understood what I'm experiencing even without talking. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people understand what that feeling is like if you've been there, if you experienced that. And then again, subhanAllah, the generous strangers that I encounter. One of the brothers who also follow me on Instagram and YouTube, he's master's student at Medina University. He studies at Tarikh al-Islami, Islamic history. He contacted me online, and then so the second day he took me. Subhanallah, he's Jordanian brother. He's of Jordanian heritage, but he's been in Saudi Arabia for a long time. So he took me to Masjid Khutba because it's sunnah to pray the Duha prayer there. And then he took me to Mount Uhud. And I was thinking to myself, subhanAllah, this brother, he studies Islamic history. You can never find a better guy than this, right? So I was asking him, could you please sort of describe for me how the Battle of Uhud happened, since we are there, we're at the Archer's Hill. And this is something that amazed me, right? This is a master student who studied at Medina University, who does verification of ancient documents. He's very good at what I asked him to do, but he was very humble. He said, "I cannot be sure, but Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best. It should be something like this." He started describing to me the Battle of Uhud, pointing to different directions, but he kept saying, "Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best. I'm not entirely sure. This is likely to be the case. It's probably this way, etc." And this to me is more like a scholar, comparing to a lot of internet muftis, Sheikh Google and Sheikh YouTube, who are so certain about everything. It has to be this way. I am definitely right. He's definitely wrong. You're a kafir. You're a munafiq. Comparing to all of this, this is more like a scholar. This brother who says Allahu A'lam all the time. This brother who says I'm not sure all the time. I don't know for sure all the time. That's more like a scholar. So we should, learn from. I certainly learned from him. We should always be humble, no matter how much knowledge we have. Because, وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذُو عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Allah says in Surah Yusuf, above everyone that has knowledge, there's someone with more knowledge. There's the all-knowing. So you don't know everything. Just be humble. And we also had brunch together. Very nice brother. May Allah reward him. And yeah, I also met some Chinese brothers in Medina. That's from my Chinese social media platform. By the way, a lot of people ask me, brother, how come you don't make Chinese videos? And the Chinese people must be more in need of da'wah, more in need of Islamic knowledge. I do have a Chinese media platform, a social media platform on WeChat. I have a WeChat official account. I do have Chinese materials, videos and articles and audios that I post there. So through that platform, I also got to know a lot of Chinese brothers and sisters in different parts of the world. So I met a brother who studies Lughat al-Arabiya, the Arabic language, in Medina University. So he invited me for lunch. So I went there, and I also met a few other guests of his. Another Chinese student who just graduated from a master's degree in in Sharia, from Medina University. And these people, subhanAllah, they are well educated, and they have a very long vision when it comes to the concern for our people. To be more specific, the concern for Chinese Muslims. They told me a lot, but maybe I can talk about this in another time. And I also got to listen to a halaqah in Masjid al-Nabawi. It's about that one I heard is about al-Aqidatul Wasatiyya. It's a book about Aqidah. And subhanAllah, I felt, this manner of learning, people sitting in a circle and the teacher is sitting in the center of the circle, explaining the book in very precise and simple language, was very moving to me. I was thinking that, this is how the scholars in the past also learned. This is a very traditional manner of education, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed sitting in that circle. And then the Jordanian brother again called me to have dinner on the second day. On the third day, we talked a lot about faith, about our time, about knowledge, about our mission and duty. We talked until 11 p.m. And he gave me a gift. He gave me a container which is called al-mud. According to Sunnah, al-mud is the measurement, is the unit of water that the Prophet ﷺ used for a wudu. It's not much. It's a small cup. So if you want to follow the Sunnah, he gave me that measurement, that container, so that I don't waste water when I make wudu. And then, there's a place between the minbar of the Prophet ﷺ, and his home, aka his grave now. There is an area, according to a hadith, it is a Rawdah min Riyadil Jannah. It is a garden from the gardens of Jannah. It is a garden from the gardens of heaven. So people also, try to get in there and pray 2 rakat, although it's not obligatory, but it's a good thing to do. So I also tried, and one day at 1 a.m., I know it's really hard in daytime, so I went at 1 a.m., right? And I was thinking to myself, well, it's 1 a.m., there's probably not a lot of people, I can do this. I was too naive. SubhanAllah, at 1 a.m., people were lining up all the way to Babu Salam. And then after about 1 hour of lining, I eventually got into the Rawdah, and it was so crowded, you can barely pray. So I prayed 2 units of prayer, and I just exited because people from the back were trying to push in. And then I passed by the grave of the Prophet ﷺ again, and then I went back. So I actually happened to experience a Jum'ah at Masjid al-Nabawi. The khutbah was actually very simple. The first half of the khutbah was just, the khatib was just reading some ahadith, some very, very, very basic ahadith. And then the second half of the khutbah, the khatib reminded the believers of some basic principles of faith and some motivations, and that's it. I think it's, about half an hour, no more than half an hour, the whole khutbah. So this actually, I think, is a good thing to do. Sometimes, I don't know about other countries, but in China, sometimes the khatib makes the khutbah excessively long, more than 1 hour. Of course, out of good intention, and may Allah reward them for that. But then when you have such a long khutbah, there are people who are eager to go back to work, and there are people who have their business to attend to. There are people who, have all kinds of errands to run. If it's too long, it might have, a reversed effect. You want them to be more encouraged to practice Islam, but they might feel that Islam has become an obstacle, has become something that affects them, something that prevents them from doing their daily business. So that might have a negative effect. But if we focus on the basics, because one of the main purposes of Jumu'ah khutbah is to remind people of the basics, to keep people anchored. And once they have that anchor, once the basic of their iman is intact, they will themselves they will be willing to learn more. So this is a principle of quality over quantity. We don't need to tell people a whole lot in one day, but as much as we tell people, we hope that people can practice. And this applies to us as learners. As much as we learn, we hope we can transform that into action. We can transform that into our being, something inside of our self, and not just something on top of our head. So a short khutbah might be good. And the last day, I also got invited by 2 other Chinese people. This brother also studies in Medina University, and his wife once studied in Syria. I went there. They cooked food from my hometown, because we're from a very close by region. So they cooked the food of the cuisine of my hometown, and I felt very warm being in such a far land, but still tasting the food of my my heritage. And then their house is very simple, not a lot of furniture, but you can sense the light of faith and the contentment and the happiness because of worship from there. You can sort of feel that the room I was staying in has been filled with recitation of the Quran and night prayers and dua. You can sense that. And when the brother and his wife say inshallah in their speech, it's not only a phrase, it is an action that they are used to. You can feel that they mean it when they say it. So I was, when I was there, I was thinking, oh, inshallah, I want to have a family like this. This is like a role model family for me. And then I left on the last day of my time in Medina. SubhanAllah, there was a few drops of rain, and this brother told me, he said, "You're very lucky, brother. It doesn't rain a lot in Medina. It's not very common to rain here." And then just before I left for the airport, there was a rainbow, a very beautiful rainbow. So I feel very happy because of that. And then it concludes my journey in Medina. It's not a very long journey. I spent maybe 3 days in Mecca and 4 days in Medina, 1 week in total. But it's, this time it's just the initiation of my, inshallah, hopefully recurring journey to the Holy Lands and to these blessed places. So I hope I can go back over and over again to refresh my iman and to cleanse my soul and to meet people like this who are very nice, whose iman and whose character move you and motivate you. And I wish, inshallah, I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal give me the opportunity and the honor to visit it more and more and to benefit from these holy lands more and more. This has been a long video, and I hope you benefited from some of the information in this video, and I encourage you to go to Mecca and Medina if you're able to, and maybe we'll meet there one day, inshallah. Thank you for watching. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.